Donald Trump just wrapped up a disastrous press conference at the exact same time that Trump's Gestapo was attacking a United States Senator from California, Alex Padilla. Donald Trump's press conference, we saw him reverse essentially his entire position on immigration within seconds. Apparently, either the business community called him or he saw his polling data from Quinnipiac and AP and YouGov, which shows his immigration policies are beyond unpopular in the United States, and his overall approvals at like 38% or 39%, essentially the worst ever. So watch as Donald Trump says, I don't think we can go after the farmers and the farmers' workers. We're going to have to figure something out there. Watch this, then let's talk about it. Here, play this clip.
Peter.
Thank you, President Trump. I have two. First, on immigration. What made you change your mind about targeting in California farmers and people in the hotel and leisure business?
Well, we're not targeting. In fact, if you look today, I put out a statement today about farmers. Our farmers are being hurt badly by, they have very good workers. They've worked for them for 20 years. They're not citizens, but they've turned out to be, great. And we're going to have to do something about that. We can't take farmers and take all their people and send them back because they don't have maybe what they're supposed to have, maybe not. And you know what's going to happen and what is happening? They get rid of some of the people because, you go into a farm and you look and people they've been there for 20, 25 years and they've worked great and the owner of the farm loves them and everything else. And then you're supposed to throw them out. And you know what happens? They end up hiring the people, the criminals that have come in, the murderers from prisons and everything else. So we're going to have an order on that pretty soon, I think. We can't do that to our farmers and leisure too, hotels. We're going to have to use a lot of common sense on that.
And my other question about the Middle East.
Yeah, and just like that, Donald Trump blows up his entire argument on immigration, the entire argument of Stephen Miller and everybody on immigration. I mean, that's comprehensive immigration reform, what he's saying right there, which is the exact opposite of what he's been doing with his ICE raids, where he's sending his ICE Gestapo, his version of the brown shirts, into restaurants and factories and in farms. We see the choppers going over the farms and the work sites and the housing projects and the buildings. We see it happening, and they're going after innocent people and hardworking people. Joey Garrison says, isn't Trump essentially undermining his entire argument of mass deportations of all illegal immigrants at this point? Yes. Now here, Donald Trump says that Los Angeles would be burning to the ground right now if it wasn't for him. And then he also talks about how he brought all of the water from the Pacific Northwest into Los Angeles during the wildfires and then saved all of Los Angeles. Here, play this clip.
But he knows, Los Angeles would be right now burning to the ground, just like the houses burned to the ground. It's so sad what's going on in Los Angeles. Think of it. They had a fire that should have never had because they should have listened to me in the water. Eventually, we broke in and we had the water come down from the Pacific Northwest. I could show you pictures now with the half pipes, the big half pipes coming all the way down California.
And again, do you know how delusional and insane this is? Governor Newsom, and I really like that Governor Newsom saying this, he goes, there's something mentally wrong with Donald Trump. And I don't want to use that as an excuse, but Gavin Newsom's like, this is a different guy than I even saw when he was there the first time. Like, he has no clue what is even happening. And Newsom says it's actually scary to watch Trump's kind of cognitive issues and hear it. So Donald Trump thinks that he took water from the Pacific Northwest and brought it to Los Angeles and put out the fires. Donald Trump had the Army Corps of Engineers go into kind of central Northern California and like drain critical dams. And then he diverted the water from these dams and reservoirs into farmland that was nowhere connected to Southern California. After the fires were 100% contained, the water passage doesn't reach Southern California. It's nowhere near it. So Trump stole 2 billion gallons of water and dumped it in areas so that he can say he turned on a faucet, believing that California is bordered with Canada and the Pacific Northwest, and we stole that water to put out the fires. That's actually what Donald Trump claims happened. It's absolutely insane. Next up, Donald Trump is asked a question about potential war in the Middle East. Whether Israel's going to strike Iran, Iran's going to strike United States military bases. And Trump's asked, so why did you order that U.S., the presence in the Middle East, why people leave? Here's what Donald Trump says.
I'd prefer the more friendly path.
And can you tell us what the Israelis told you that made you start to evacuate the dependents of servicemen and women who are stationed in the Middle East?
They didn't tell me anything, but I said, look, there's a chance of massive conflict. We have a lot of American people in this area. And I said, we got to tell them to get out because something could happen soon. And I don't want to be the one that didn't give any warning and missiles are flying into their buildings. It's possible. So I had to do it. I had the choice. Do I do it or not? Doing it has its downside, but it also has its upside. Like, you're going to save a lot of lives if it should happen. Hopefully that doesn't happen. Right? Thank you.
Again, that's his response, that there's a massive chance of What are you doing? Like, do you know what's actually happening there? The answer, unfortunately, is no.
Thanks, Ben. Let me interrupt for just a minute to talk about what Donald Trump is doing to American jobs, specifically clean energy jobs. This is a topic that isn't getting nearly enough attention, so I want to make sure we're covering it here at MeidasTouch. Since Trump's election, get this, over 91,000 clean energy jobs have been lost, stalled, or canceled. That's $86.7 billion in private investment gone or at risk. These are real projects in real towns that are revitalizing places across the United States. Now there are at least 16 states that are seeing over $1 billion in investment threatened, delayed, or lost. Michigan has over $17 billion in investment at stake, for example. Texas over $11 billion. Arizona and Georgia over $3 billion. And nearly half of those lost jobs we've seen are in red states. This clean energy boom we've seen didn't come out of nowhere. Let's remember how the Inflation Reduction Act finally put the U.S. on the path to energy independence and reshoring manufacturing. But since Trump's return to power, and with Republicans in Congress trying to gut those investments, 142 clean energy projects have been threatened, delayed, or canceled. Startups are pausing operations. Workers are being laid off. Solar companies are folding. EV and battery factories canceled. Even the Wall Street Journal reports that climate tech companies are entering bankruptcy under these policies. And while Americans pay higher utility bills and lose out on good-paying jobs, China stands to gain. So if you care about jobs, about growth, about keeping America competitive, this isn't complicated. Trump's agenda doesn't just threaten clean energy, it's killing one of the fastest growing job sectors in the entire country. And now the fate of those jobs are in the hands of Senate Republicans. The future is on the line, so let's just continue to spread the word so we can work to restore momentum in one of the country's fastest growing job sectors, clean energy. All right, back to you, Ben.
Here, Donald Trump says that he's disappointed both in Russia and Ukraine. Both sides are disappointing him right now because they're not doing a deal. He wants a deal. Here, play this clip.
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead. You in the blue, please. Light blue.
Thank you, Mr. President. How close are you to step back on between Ukraine and Russia? We see a very bad escalation. Are you going to leave it in the hands of the Europeans?
I'm very close to the situation. I'm very disappointed in Russia, but I'm disappointed in Ukraine also because I think deals could have been made. And, we're losing 5,000, 6,000 people a week, soldiers mostly, but also people living in towns because they're getting hit by missiles again.
Trump is asked about the No Kings protests, and he goes, I'm not a king. Play this clip.
There are several No Kings protests planned across the country on Saturday as well. What are your thoughts on those?
What are they called? No Kings?
No Kings.
I don't feel like a king. I have to go through hell to get stuff approved. A king would say, I'm not going to get this. A king would have never had the California mandate to even be talking to him. He wouldn't have to call up Mike Johnson and Thune and say, fellas, you got to pull this off. And after years, we get it done. No, we're not a king. We're not a king at all. Thank you very much.
Then Donald Trump takes credit for the curfew in Los Angeles, even though he has nothing to do with it. Here, play this clip.
If we didn't go, Los Angeles right now would be on fire, it would be a disaster. And we stopped it. And last night was very good. Nobody showed up. You know why they didn't show up? Because we were there. If it was just the police, because the police are great. I know those police, they're great, but they're told not to do anything. They're not allowed to act. Thank you.
Trump then compares sending the United States military into United States cities like defeating ISIS. And Donald Trump claims that he defeated ISIS, which he didn't. I mean, there's still a lot of terrorism relating to ISIS around the globe right now. Let's be clear about that. But he's comparing LA cities to ISIS. Here, play this clip.
We rebuilt the military. We have the greatest, strongest military. We defeated ISIS. We defeated ISIS. We defeated ISIS in 4 weeks. It was told to be 5 years. It was going to take 5 years, anywhere from 4 to 5 years. We did it in 4 weeks. With, by the way, headed by the general who's now the head of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. That's why he's there. He said it would take 4 weeks, and he did it in 4 weeks. He did actually a little bit faster. So we have a great country, and we're going to keep it that way. And when it comes to Los Angeles or other cities, if we see other cities are gearing up, and these people are agitators, they're paid, they're professionals. They're insurrectionists, they're troublemakers, they're all of those things, but I believe they're paid, and we're going to find out through Pam Bondi and her great staff, her great people at Justice, who they are. And Mike, I think you're doing some investigations in that in Congress, but we're going to find out who they are, because they're really, I think what they're doing is unbelievably illegal. Just one.
Donald Trump further brags about bringing the military in. Play this clip.
I said, you have to get your ass in gear because you're going to have a problem there. And he would have. If we didn't bring the military in, you would have right now something. And I went through it because I follow the rules 100%. And I watched in Minnesota, where you have the man who ran for vice president of the United States. Fortunately, he was a disaster. But he wouldn't call in the National Guard. And I eventually called in the National Guard, but it was seven days late. I said, I'll never do that again. I'm never going to, if I see problems brewing, if they're not going to do the problem, I'm not going to wait 2 weeks. Because that city, Minneapolis, burned down.
Donald Trump lies and claims that Governor Newsom told Fox that he had never had a conversation with Donald Trump before on the phone, which is false. Governor Newsom simply posted, not to Fox, in response to Donald Trump saying that there was a conversation a day ago, which would have been June 9th from June 10th, when Newsom and Trump spoke on June 7th. Newsom said there was no such call, there was no voicemail. And then Trump referenced a June 7th call, which Newsom had talked about before. But now Trump is saying that Newsom called Fox and said there was never a phone call. Newsom never called Fox and never had a conversation like this. Here, play this clip.
All read. But now you have to, I always got along with Gavin. I like Gavin. I've liked him always. He said I never called him. You know, they asked him a question on Fox, I guess. I never spoke to him. He doesn't remember the call. He doesn't remember. I never spoke. And then I produced a phone call. I had it. It took me about 2 minutes. I said, well, here's the call. It lasted 16 minutes and 4 seconds. And it was at 12:30 in the evening. I actually made a call, didn't pick up. I called him a second time, and he picked up. And I told him, I said, you have to get your ass in gear because you're going to have a problem there.
And then Donald Trump lies and claims that he's the #1 TikToker. Play this clip.
We won with workers. We won with young people. I just saw with TikTok, I was #1 on TikTok in its history. Can you believe that? So I guess I like TikTok. That's why they're saying, are you saving? And we probably will save TikTok, actually.
And then finally, Donald Trump refers to the chairman of the Federal Reserve as a numbskull. Here, play this clip.
Camera's rolling right now. Not that I like doing it, because I don't. But if we cut our interest by 1 point, for years, we save $300 billion. If we cut it by 2 points, we save, because it's pretty equivalent. We're going to spend $600 billion a year, $600 billion, because of one numbskull that sits here. I don't see enough reason to cut the rates now.
Again, a very bizarre and deeply disturbing press conference there by Donald Trump. And let me just show you, this is what California Governor Newsom said about Donald Trump's mental state. Here, play this clip.
Branches he can't handle. Because the other night, he came out and said that when you guys spoke, he warned you that if you didn't get things under control, he was going to bring in troops.
Stone cold liar. Stone cold liar. He made that up. Like he makes up so many other things. He never said that.
And he also seemed to make up this idea that the National Guard did a great job last night when they weren't here.
They weren't even deployed, and he claimed victory. He's lost it. He hasn't lost a step. And I saw him trip on the steps today. I mean, this is serious. He is not the same person that I dealt with just 4 years ago. And he's incapable now of even a train of thought. He's making things up, and he's putting people's lives at risk. And he's got a band of people that are complicit in this. And that's what's so damn alarming.
Yeah, no, I like that Newsom's punching back and just calling it as it is, calling Trump a coward and calling Trump cognitively addled. Both are very true. Hit subscribe. Let's get to 5 million subscribers, and thank you so much for watching.
Can't get enough Meidas? Check out the Meidas Plus Substack for ad-free articles, reports, podcasts, daily recaps from Ron Filipkowski, and more. Sign up for free now at MeidasPlus.com.